Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and salutations. I'm Sal. Welcome back to 2 Cents Toys and the start of the final day of IconiCon 2022. Today, we're going to be discussing Playmates, Kenner, and Toybiz, a battle royale for the 90s toy aisle. Kind of talking about our favorite toy lines, or I guess IPs from those particular companies. And then we're going to discuss a little bit about how these three heavy hitters in the 90s, these three like juggernauts of the toy aisle, aren't around anymore. Like Playmates still does Turtles, kind of, sort of. Kenner is around only in name, and then Toybiz just pop smoke. So just kind of how these monoliths of the toy aisle could suddenly disappear overnight, almost like the dinosaurs, and how that might come to the big guys that are around today. We'll find out.
Hello, Sal, you're muted. If you
Huzzah.
just introduced me, no one heard it because you're muted.
Outstanding. Did anyone hear anything I said?
No.
Outstanding. Well, Ryan's here. Hello.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me on. Excited. Last day of IconiCon, but there's still a ton of good content coming in.
Hell yeah. So, give us a preview. Which toy line are you looking forward to talking about the most in this discussion?
Oh, man. Well, for me, it's a toss-up between Kenner and Toybiz. Playmates didn't make a ton that I was into, but I love me some Kenner toys. Batman the Dark Knight collection. Toybiz, of course. Their Marvel stuff.
I gotcha. Alrighty. So, our next gentleman up and making his debut on this channel is Ryan's mortal enemy, Jeremy Jernigan.
Yes. Hey, Sal. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Welcome. So, which one are you looking forward to the most?
Man, it's really a toss
I don't
up.
care. Next up is Bobby.
No,
Go ahead, Jeremy.
it's definitely a toss up between Kenner and Playmates, man.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I was that Toybiz was cool. I enjoyed some of that stuff, but when I had to pick favorite lines from those companies,
Mhm.
it was I had like 6 or 7 from Kenner and Playmates, and then I was like, yeah, I guess I could throw a couple from Toybiz in there. So,
Alrighty. And next up, the man, the myth, the legend, our friend, your friend, and the man behind Action Force, one Bobby Valla.
I didn't think I was anyone's friend.
Oh well, we let the people at home believe that. If the internet has anything, if the internet's anything to go off of, you don't like anybody.
This is very true. I like absolutely nobody.
We're all grumpy old men, just like the movie. What about you, Bobby? I have a feeling I know which one you're most excited to talk about, but
when we first kind of started this idea, I had one idea, and then started changing, and now I think I'm evenly split between the three, just because it's so interesting how much has changed from when those three were on top.
Okay, I got you. Alrighty, so a quick round robin for the people at home. Ryan, tell the people who you are, where they can find you.
Hey, I'm Ryan, also known as Laser Pants. You can find me on the 3POA Podcast YouTube channel every other Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific. Got some other content going up there as well. That's about it.
Gotcha. Mr. Jeremy.
Sorry, I was having a bit of a technical issue. Are we doing intros right now?
Just where they can find you.
You can find me on Facebook at me, first name Jer, middle name E, last name My. Also at Authority Figure on Facebook and on Instagram.
And Bobby. I mean, I think everyone pretty much knows where to find you now.
I think so. Valaverse on MySpace. You know, you guys can see my top 8 there. See if any of you made it.
Spoiler
yeah.
alert, none of us made it. No,
it's all UFC fighters and Instagram girls in his top 8.
100%. 100%.
Well, you got to get the MySpace girls with the big duck butt haircuts and like word camera angles.
Yep.
Yeah. The fat girls thought they were fooling anybody. No. I know that angle very well. But anyway, you can also find him once a year at the most obnoxious booth at BalaCon.
That's what I hear.
It was a hotbed of activity. When I tell people like we were bum rushed that first night, I don't think they understand we were bum rushed. Like,
yeah, line was out the door for 3 hours. It was great.
Yep.
That booth actually got me invited to another convention, a local one here in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
We were like, hey, we saw your booth at Joe Fest. Can you bring that same booth to our show so we can like promote the show? I'm like, yes, absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
All right. Kicking off our super chat, we have a super sticker from Zazel. Thank you, sir. Sergeant Slaughterhouse. I think he's from Austria. I think that's where he's from. So, and then we have another one. Let me scroll all the way down here to find it. There it is. Jody, thank you, sir. Says just cuz. Appreciate you. All right. So this stream's very low impact, very kind of laid back. It's an easy Sunday morning stream. You know, I don't want anyone to hurt themselves or hurt their brains too much. So we're just going to kind of talk about some of our favorite lines. We'll start out with Toy Biz, and we'll kind of just circle the wagons. So I know for myself, Toy Biz seemed to they love the superheroes. So I think it's hard to mention Toy Biz and not mention like all of this madness. So they're very large in the Marvel department.
Well, I mean, you're skipping though. You forget what started Toy Biz was DC.
Oh yeah.
89 Batman, baby.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I believe they handed over the reins to DC to Kenner by 91? 91?
Yeah, just before Batman Returns, because they did the Dark Knight line, and then shortly after that was the Batman Returns line for Kenner.
Yeah, I think 90 was probably when they started their Marvel stuff. It was very early 90s. That first wave of Spider-Man with suction cup hands.
Yeah.
Hulk with the boulder crushing action, the bar bending action.
Yeah, Punisher with the caps, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was just about to say Punisher with the cap gun feature. That thing was sweet.
Yeah. The Punisher van.
Oh, yeah.
Still hard to come by that van.
I mean, it's not that hard to come by. I saw vans all the time when I was a kid. Saw the inside of a lot of them too.
Oh, man.
Anyway, so Toy Biz. I would like to. So for those that don't know, this stream originally was going to be the kind of the story of Toy Biz. It was going to be their peak and their demise, because it's kind of a big company to just disappear. And I've been trying to look it up, and I can't really figure out what happened. I guess they were absorbed by Marvel at one point.
They purchased Marvel. It was Toy Biz was started by
right. That's
Ike Perlmutter.
Yeah.
Yep. And they actually saved Marvel from bankruptcy in the 90s.
Yeah.
And that's why I was confused. I was like, I know they bought them, they became Marvel Entertainment, and then Toy Biz just kind of went off into the ether, I guess.
I think they looked at it like, which is why you don't see Disney doing their yes, Disney has their own toy lines, very, very minimal, but it's the reason why they let Hasbro and other companies license out their brands is because at the end of the day, these large companies, you don't want to deal with production and manufacturing. Let someone else do it and just collect a check. It's too big of a headache for them. They're worried about movies and entertainment, theme parks, stuff that makes the billions of dollars. So they're probably like, you know what? We could probably license the brand out to a large toy company and not have to deal with the headache and probably make just as much money by doing it that way, putting it on their shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'd heard. Well, part of the reason the topic changed was that Toy Biz was around well into the aughts, and we're kind of stuck with the 70s to the 90s at this point. And I desperately wanted to talk about the Lord of the Rings line. I really did. Such a good line. But from what I understand, that was the nail in the coffin for Toy Biz because it was so much unique tooling, and I guess they weren't paying for their tooling. They were getting it on credit or something when it came due. They're like, we can't afford that.
Oh,
Yeah, it was that and Marvel Legends. Probably more so the Lord of the Rings.
that line.
I remember those things on early Entertainment Earth website. Well, it was early to me. Those things were selling for less than $1 on clearance. A lot of the Lord of the Rings toy line.
Man.
Yeah. Like cents. You can get Aragorn for cents.
Huh.
They got better too. Like some of the early ones are really wonky looking, but they got better as they went. And they're like their orcs and their goblins and like they made like the Nazgul. They made the trolls. They made Ents. Like they made everything.
Yeah.
They went real deep, especially at the end when they slimmed down the packaging and started coming out with like more of the obscure characters. They got really good, and a lot of those are kind of pricey to get some of the later figures. But
yeah, the trolls, the Ents, the Balrog. Actually, the Balrog was NECA.
The Balrog was NECA.
That Balrog is massive.
Yeah.
It's also
unfortunately that line suffers from the type of plastic they used. It was like a soft, rubbery material they use on a lot of stuff, and nowadays that stuff is crumbling.
Yeah, the PVC is breaking down. It's called plasticizer, and that separates from the oil and the plastic. And that's like for those of you that have vintage Joe's Spirit, his skirt suffers from it a lot. You'll get a sticky skirt. He-Man figures suffer from it on the legs. PVC has plasticizer in it. ABS doesn't do it. I don't believe ABS has plasticizer in it, but when PVC, when it separates over time, it gets sticky. Now, the thing is, though, G.I. Joe's, it takes, 20, 30 years for it to happen. The Lord of the Rings happened really fast. And, I know that whatever factory they're using or the manufacturing process, when they put the figures in the packaging, they either didn't let the paint dry or anything cool, because a lot of the figures were just stuck to their PVC parts, and you pull them out of the package and they're stuck to the package, and it was kind of messy. They did have a lot of soft PVC that just was executed poorly, which is unfortunate because the sculpts are fantastic on them. It's just they don't last as long anymore.
A lot of their Legends figures suffer from the same thing. I got that Hulk when he's working in Vegas. What's his name when he's working in Vegas?
Fixer.
Yeah, Mr. Fix-It.
Fix-It.
When I got one of those on card and opened it probably 6-7 years ago, and the plastic was all sticky. The jacket was crumbling. It was bad. And at that point, it wasn't even 10 years old yet.
Yeah, that's
I got a Gandalf and a Sauron probably 3 months ago, I want to say, at the Toy Vault, and I opened them up and sticky as shit. Like just their cloaks are all slimy and gross. Conversely, I got a Boromir from Second Chance Toys at the meetup, not sticky at all. So maybe it's the tray, like kept in the tray longer. Maybe it makes them stickier. I'm not sure.
I'm sure a lot of it has to do with how they're stored.
Yeah.
Temperature, sunlight, that type of thing.
Yeah. Also, each production run's different.
I was gifted this recently, and I'm not opening it precisely for that reason. But my buddy Eddie sent me this, and he's staying in there. It's not coming out. I don't want it to crumble in my hands or anything if I take it out of there. So plus it looks really cool, still sealed up with the brand new one, kind of how it started and how it's going type of display right there. So
But you know what's not breaking down is the original Toy Biz Marvel figures. Those hold up great. The plastics are good. Huh?
Yeah, they're all ABS plastic.
Yeah.
Those things will last forever.
do you want to talk about the greatest Toy Biz line though that nobody's really mentioned yet?
No, we don't. No, I said no.
Oh man.
Hercules. Right?
I mean, you see my Hydra, Jeremy, right?
Man, I was this was such a guilty pleasure of mine back in the day, man. I was such a mark for Xena and Gabrielle, dude. Like I mean the Kevin Sorbo Hercules show was cool, but man, I was there for Xena, dude, straight up.
Like
I like the shows, not the toys.
Oh, I love the toy. Well, I shouldn't say I love the toys because I had a Hercules that was a shitty figure, but the monsters were great. So I had the Hydra, the Cerebus, and the Echidna, I think's her name, the lady with the tentacles.
There was a centaur too, wasn't there?
I believe so.
Actually, you know what? I can check the back of this card.
Hell yeah.
I'm sorry, a Minotaur. A Minotaur. Yeah.
So, Jim Largo sends in a super chat. Says, "Happy 4th of July weekend." Thank you, sir. Who had the best IPs back in the day? Toybiz, Playmates, or Kenner? That is what we are here to discuss.
We're going to get to the bottom of this, and we're going to do it together.
That's right. So we've been talking a lot about license. Oh, Scuba Pete sends one. Thank you, sir. He says, "Awesome panel. Thanks, fellas." Well, thank you. I appreciate the vote of confidence here. So far we've talked mostly about licensed IPs like Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Batman, Hercules. What about? Well, I should say they're pretty much all licensed, aren't they? None of them are truly original. But we'll say things like I don't know. You want to talk about Skeleton Warriors, Bobby?
Yeah. This is, we're still in the good old days of toy companies creating their own IP, which helped build, a lot of these brands and toy companies. It's unfortunate that they don't really do it too much anymore. But yeah, something like Skeleton Warriors comes around. Show was cool. The figures were fantastic. Amazing detail. Anything that's vac metalized is really, really cool. I don't know why it didn't survive, though. Maybe I think a lot of these things live and die by entertainment. Mm-hmm. So the show probably did not do well, which in turn made the toys not do well. They maybe came out one or two waves. But very cool line. Back then it was like kids just wanted cool stuff. And the fact that like you could have just Skeleton Warriors was pretty awesome.
It was super metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. The show was a little weird. I think there's only like 12 episodes, something like that. It didn't quite catch on. It is a little weird, but I don't know. For me as a kid, I was more about the toys. I didn't care what the show was. Like, because usually, like, I don't know. I had sleeping problems as long as I can remember, so I would sleep in on a Saturday morning. I'd wake up at like noon. So I always missed all those cartoons. But
I don't even remember the show. It wasn't until recently that I learned that there was a Skeleton Warriors cartoon. I remember seeing the toy commercial and maybe seeing the toys once or twice in a toy aisle as a kid. But I just don't think the show had much reach, and that's probably why it didn't last more than 12 episodes.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was Playmates that put them out. And weirdly, like they have a little bit of wonky proportion going on. Like Baron Darkear does have kind of weird feet positioned. So does Oracula. But not
Playmates.
No, not Playmates. They'd never do anything weird like that.
Right. Which that's they're nothing if not consistent.
Dude, they are. the squatty poses that everybody had from TMNT to Dick Tracy, Star Trek: The Next Generation. Those did have knee articulation though, but they were still like when you looked at them in the bubble on the card back, they were in those weird squatty positions. But yeah, you're right. Consistent, very consistent.
Maybe they're just being really sneaky. But which I don't know if that's to the detriment of it. It's not as bad, I should say, as say Dick Tracy or Turtles, like where they were like squatting all the way down to like they're trying to pick up quarters or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean the Foot Soldier and Shredder are the two most, I would say, the most notorious from that line for those those positions, or the way that they molded the legs and everything. It's very difficult to get them to stand up, and you have to do a balancing act with the arms kind of out. That's just been my experience anyway.
I wonder if that, something about that squatty pose that you mentioned with the Turtles, He-Man. I was never into those lines, and I wonder if that's why. I always gravitated towards, regular proportion figures, like the weird squatty pose, more cartoonish proportions. I just never cared for. And now that you mentioned they're permanently bent knees, like half squat pose, I wonder if that had something to do with it.
Well, there's no time for taste. So
but those legs echoed throughout the industry as well. If you look at like Cowboys of Moo Mesa, right, which they were deliberately trying to get in on the Turtles, money, but they were in the same like squatty, pose too. So there was a lot of figures from that time that shared that trait.
Anthropomorphic animals were
Anthropomorphic
big
animals
in the 90s.
Yeah, SWAT Cats, Cowboys of Moo Mesa. What else? There was lots of people trying to cash in on them turtle bucks.
The
Playmates
ours. There was Bucky O'Hare.
Oh God, yeah, Bucky O'Hare was awesome.
There was almost a 1990s Playmates Cyber Frog line of toys.
Really?
They made it to the prototype stage.
Oh,
yep.
I didn't know that.
There was going to be a cartoon as well, but it never panned out.
So are those prototypes or like test shots or anything? Are they floating around somewhere?
I think I've seen Ethan Van Sciver show them on his stream before. I think, or maybe he just talked about them.
I guess if anybody would have one, it would be him.
Yeah.
That's someone brought up Gargoyles and Samurai Pizza Cats. I guess Gargoyles would kind of count, sort of, maybe. I mean, they're not animals, but, or as my dad called it, animated Star Trek. Because I would watch Gargoyles, and he recognized half the cast from Next Gen, like through the voices. He was like,
"Oh, that's right." Like Frakes is there. He's the bad guy. What was the bad guy's name?
Riker. Or not?
No. Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, the actor's name. His last name is Frakes. I just can't remember the bad guy from the show. He had the bad guy 90s ponytail and everything, right? Yeah,
that's right. He had the could cut glass.
That's how you know somebody was an asshole, right? Even if they aren't, if they're a secret asshole, like they're the good guy in the first 2 episodes, they've got that ponytail. Yeah. Sus. You got to watch it.
That's why they gave Terry Silver a ponytail in Karate Kid 3. Like,
exactly.
We need an asshole.
That's right. So it was Xanatos. Thank you, Bjorn.
Yep.
Yeah, such a great show, though. It really was. They were all named after places in New York, which makes it really hard for me to remember whose name is who.
Hudson.
There's Hudson, Brooklyn, Bronx, Lexington, and then Goliath.
And then Goliath and Demona.
Yeah.
And that was Counselor Troy.
Yep. And was it Keith David? I think was Goliath.
Keith David was Goliath. Yeah.
Such an iconic voice. I mean, it's like saying H. John Benjamin is iconic. He just sounds the same in everything he does, but it's a very distinct, noticeable voice.
He also did the that HBO Spawn too, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think that was him. Yeah.
He did indeed. So keep it in line with Playmates and another, I shouldn't say guilty pleasure, but a fucking phenomenal TV show, underrated toy line that makes my nipples hard. Exo Squad.
Nice.
Exo Squad was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I never had any. That was when did those start coming out? Probably I was probably getting out of toys by that time.
It was like 93, 94.
Okay.
Let's check.
I was definitely still into toys at that point.
I see no copyright information. There's no coup. That's fine. But no, these things, like Exo Squad, it's kind of weird. Like I don't remember Exo Squad being like a cultural phenomenon or anything like that, or anyone really caring about it. Like I really, really like the figures. I think they're 3-inch. Like they're kind of small.
Yeah, they're little.
But they all came. They had giant robots that they piloted, but they also came with their own weapons and things like that. But I say that because there were a couple other companies who took that gimmick, or a couple other toy lines, I should say, that took that gimmick. Like, because Ninja Turtles did it. Had a Leonardo that was the same thing. It was like a robot Leonardo with a little Leo pilot. G.I. Joe, I think, did it in 2000 something, because I have a couple of their mech suits.
I always thought that maybe the whole mech suit craze kind of started around Aliens, when Sigourney Weaver got in the power loader. Because it seems like after that, mech suits like really started to get popular with kids.
Yeah, because Kenner put out the power loader in their line.
Yep. Power loader, Exo Squad. There was movies like, I don't know if you guys remember Robot Jocks. You guys ever see that?
Oh yeah,
big mech suit like movie, super cheesy.
Dude, I haven't thought about that since, God, I don't even know when. That's triggered a memory, man.
Yeah, that was definitely early 90s. It was kind of there was a big like mech suit craze around that era, you know.
It's even going further back than that, at least in Japan. I think it was the 70s when the first Gundam show came out. But that's like a giant, mech robot with these are kind of like just exo suits, like exoskeletons, hence Exo Squad. But
let's not forget that Power Rangers could be seen as mech suits in a way. They're in the Zords. Voltron. So it's like mech suits have kind of been around before, but it's like it just evolved
at the super huge kaiju scale. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's Mr. Pokey87. Thank you, sir. Sends a super chat, and he says, "Gotta head to work. Awesome panel, great topic. Can't wait to catch the replay. Top of the morning, fellas."
Thanks, Pokey.
And someone, there it is, Jesse Guardo says, "Did you guys see the series called BattleTech?" Now, Bobby, is that the same one that you have in your office?
Let me check.
Is that what those are called?
I remember Robotech.
Yeah. There was a sub, not, I shouldn't say a sub line, but there was another line that they took all the Exo Squad suits and repainted them and called it something else entirely. But
no, they were called Tech Wars.
Tech Wars.
So that's just Wolf Bronsky without the Wolf Bronsky figure.
Yeah, cool.
But they used all the original lines. This was done by a company called Replay, and I believe Replay was probably a subsidy of Playmates at the time, or licensed the tooling out to them. I don't know if Playmates actually owned the rights to what's it called, Exo Squad, because Exo Squad I think was owned by Universal, but maybe the toy rights allowed them to sell off their tooling, even though it's copyright design. So weird stuff like that happened back then. Who knows how all that kind of stuff went down.
But if anyone is ever interested, I think Peacock has Exo Squad for streaming, I think. And the show holds up incredibly.
Very sophisticated show for young kids.
Right. Extremely. They tackle some, like in the first episode, they're already talking about like classism and racism, a whole bunch of stuff through the guise of these, what were they called?
Neo-Sapiens.
Neo-Sapiens. I almost said manimals. I'm like, no, that's not correct. The Neo-Sapiens, which were like engineered humanoid creatures specifically for Mars to like mine and culturize things, and then they had like an uprising revolt, and it's this really interesting story.
So you had like your serfs there, or like your working class, yeah,
pretty much. Lio Convoy, thank you, Thomas. He says technically Power Rangers and Voltron fall under the designation of super robots. And if anyone would know, it is definitely him.
I was surprised by Gen X Toys Geek Jody's comment. He said, "Let's not forget Exo Squad repurposed Robotech and across designs." I did not know that at all.
They did.
They did, yeah.
I have a few. I can go grab them. But they took a few of those and made like other robots for the show and the toy line, I think. I don't know if I shouldn't say the show, definitely the toy line. But
yeah, it was at the tail end when things were dying. I think they were probably trying to find a way to keep Exo Squad going, and like, oh well, let's tie it in with this brand that we probably own as well, and just fell flat.
Indeed. So, all right. So, Playmates. We're still talking on Playmates.
Playmates is fantastic. I gotta so many cool stuff from them. I mean, obviously Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Dick Tracy.
but I would say like probably right there up there with TMNT is Star Trek: The Next Generation figures for me.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I absolutely love that show. I love these figures. This is the first Picard. You can see he's got the season 1 uniform on right there before they had the higher collar. But these things were great. Here's my Geordie unpunched right there. I can't bring myself to open these up, man. I loved them so much when I was a kid. And the coolest things were these figure stands that they would come with that looked like the Starfleet communicator. Which was unintentionally a role play item because I would take this thing and put double-sided tape on it.
Me too.
And I'd stick it to my chest. And so me and my brother would be in the backyard, trying to call the Enterprise, but there was some kind of atmospheric plasma something distortion going on, and we couldn't get back to the ship.
Well, that line had great role-playing items besides those stands. They had the tricorder and they had phasers.
Dude, I meant to bring the phaser out. My phaser still works. I found it in the bottom of a tote, and I opened up the battery compartment. I scraped off a whole bunch of rust and stuff that had built up on the connectors in there. Plopped 2 batteries in there. It's still going, man.
Nice.
It's still rocking after all these years. And sometimes Playmates would do this awesome thing where there's 2 properties that you really like,
and so they put both of them together. So you get these Star Trek TMNT figures right here.
Which were absolutely great, man. Fantastic. I love weird stuff like that, dude.
Yeah, one of the great things about that Star Trek line, it's expansive. It's huge. Like if there was a character in the show, they probably did it. But if you want to start collecting it now, it's really affordable.
$5, dude. For the vast majority of like encarded examples too.
Yeah,
you're looking at $5, except for some of the more rare ones like Barclay. Or Barkley, I forgot how they pronounce his name. And there's a Data also. There's a version of Data. I think it was like a limited run, or they had there was like a running change or something. But there's a version of Data that's going for like $60. But I can't remember exactly the details as to why. Yeah.
Still, if there's just a couple of $60 items, that's a great line to get into if you want to, collect the vintage line.
Then one of my early crushes right here was Dr. Crusher, Gates McFadden.
I was a Deanna Troy guy myself.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you remember the episode where they were doing yoga together? Remember that? And their futuristic yoga pants and everything. Man, what a time to be alive!
Man, this stream just got horny.
So I wasn't a Star Trek fan as a kid growing up, but I remember always going into Toys R Us and KB and just looking at the Star Trek toys. You all right, Ryan?
Yeah, I just read something Scuba Pete put in the chat. Sorry. Continue on.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, I would go and I would look at the figures because they came with a ton of accessories. They were really cool looking. I didn't relate to any of it, but I couldn't help myself from like looking at them. And if you go and watch the Netflix The Toys That Made Us episode, and they talk about how deep that Playmates line goes, part of me was kind of like, I kind of want to collect it just because it seems so awesome, even though I never watched Next Generation. But it just seemed like a cool line to collect because there was so much depth to it.
Yeah, I remember when I was really young, we had a black and white TV. That's all we had. And my dad would sit there and watch the original Star Trek series, and I would be bored out of my mind. Mm-hmm. And so I was initially hesitant to ever start watching The Next Generation, but then I got into it, and that was it for me. That is my Star Trek. Like the Next Generation crew, that's my Star Trek.
Yeah, season 1 is rough, right? as a diehard, I will tell you, season 1 is rough if you're just jumping into it. But after that, I mean, you're looking at some fantastic storytelling, and then taking into consideration that the show was on a shoestring budget, which is kind of par for the course for Star Trek. I used to catch random episodes of the original series with my granddad, who was a big fan. So if it was on TV, we were watching it together. And then I have some very, very fond memories of us building the models together. We had the Enterprise D from the Next Generation, and then also the original one as well. And I just have this memory of him. He got so mad at this Enterprise one time. It's like it wasn't gluing together right, and he just he sent this thing like warp 6 into the side of the wall, like right there, right in the middle of the living room. Bow! It just broke into pieces, and then he was like, "Come on, boy, get in the truck. We're gonna get another one." So we went back to the hobby shop and bought another one.
I always wanted that the shuttle from the Playmates line. I don't know if you had that, but
I have it. I
never had it.
The little transport, little personal.
The Galileo, it's called.
Yeah, the Galileo.
But I do have this fine piece right here, which is a
Oh, a
Next
collector's
Generation figure carrying case right there.
Ooh, carrying cases were the shit, man.
Oh man!
If a line had a carrying case, you knew it was a good line,
Dude. Yeah, I remember the one for I think the Star Wars one, as long as we're talking, Kenner stuff too. The Star Wars one, that folding clamshell Darth Vader.
Dude. That's I had that. Yeah,
I just picked one up at Joe Fest.
Absolutely fantastic.
I was thinking about doing an Action Force carrying case, but I'm just like, nobody carries them to friends' houses anymore. It's more of I just display my stuff. So I'm like, it's not really a good thing to do.
I mean, it would make a cool backdrop.
Yeah,
possibly.
Yeah. My Masters of the Universe one is part of the display.
That's
that right over there.
Yeah. That's pretty much looking around. I have a couple carrying cases, and every single one of them is a backdrop. So, my Vader carrying case actually has Bosk in front of him, so you can't really see him, which is more important, really, Bosk, but.
But yeah, it as far as like presentation goes for your display, if you have some open space in there, you can get one of those carrying cases to fill up that open space. They look fantastic, and the vast majority of them aren't that expensive. I picked this one up. This isn't my childhood one. I did have one back in the day. I don't know what happened to it. I got this one for $5. So
I got the C-3PO one when I was probably 13, when I was starting to collect vintage Star Wars after the fact. And I remember it was sealed with the plastic, and I opened it like a dummy. But it's you didn't know. It was my mom got it at a flea market for probably $15.
Yeah.
And I opened it up, and it had the cutout with all the figures on it, and I would just stare at that thing all day I want that figure, but it was just cool seeing them, those inserts. There's something real special about them.
Oh yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I have a distinct memory, and it's on topic to what you're talking about, but off topic for the stream. But the Irwin figures from Dragon Ball Z, the card back, it had them listed Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, and they were imported to the US, so they were already out in Japan. So you get the card back, and it would have characters from episodes you haven't seen before. So you'd be like, "Oh, who's this? Who's that?" And we had this broken ass recliner, and I would sit behind it because it was in the corner of a wall, and I would sit there and stare at the back and basically hallucinate looking at this fucking card. I would be like, "Who's this? Oh, I need that," and I would hallucinate these play scenarios with it, and I would just sit there and just fiend over these card backs, which you don't get anymore. I mean, a Marvel Legends wave gives you the wave, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is someone. There's a toy company out there right now that has all the figures on the back. I think it's called Action Force or something like that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we, we're kind of changing with the times. Whereas, yes, that was my intention from the start.
Did you go to windowless or what?
Well, no, we're still listening. But no, it was, we have the cross cells, which show a bust shot of it, which is kind of how Marvel Legends does it. But then Series 3 we went with just artwork, so it's constantly changing and trying to find a happy medium for it. But I mean, you look at the old Toy Biz, X-Men Marvel stuff in the 90s, They had all the figures, but they were really small, so you couldn't really see them. So I don't know what the right answer is for that. You know, there's some toy lines that just do artwork and don't even show like the actual characters in the wave. I'm definitely going to keep sticking to the characters in the wave, just because it's kind of silly to just show generic artwork that's like a ton of characters that aren't necessarily in the wave.
How about the those little catalog inserts they used to put in Kenner toys?
Oh,
They would
man.
have the range of
awesome.
every line they had.
Stand by.
Dude, I've got like 3 or 4 of those right now, and you can see like the Beetlejuice, Bill and Ted starting lineup, like all that stuff in there. It's fantastic.
Did Bill and Ted ever happen? Because I never saw those in store, and I
Oh,
always
yeah.
looked.
Oh,
one
for
happened.
fucking sure they did. You should look at what they're going for secondary market right now, dude.
They must have been a really short run then.
Yeah, it wasn't big, but man, they were fun, and that cartoon was really cool too. Because the figures were based off of the cartoon line.
Yeah.
They were, but they had really cool accessories, man. They had the time machine, phone booth. They had like little guitar amplifiers and stuff that were part of the gimmick for the figures. Yeah, really, really cool, but really pricey if you're trying to track them down now.
So you have one of those catalogs?
Speaking of starting lineup,
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
so we forgot Winter Circle. So there's all sorts of stuff in here. No Bill and Ted, unfortunately. Something that speaks to my heart, though, the Chaos Effect dinosaurs.
Nice.
So all sorts
I have a bunch of old Kenner and Hasbro Toy Fair catalogs that only went out to the Toy Fair attendees and employees and stuff like that. And those are cool because they're like the inserts, but they show like a lot of unreleased stuff.
Mhm.
You're shopping around for for Toy Fair. That stuff's cool to look at.
I mean, look at the back of these right there with everything, and then you get your file card on old Bev right there.
But also look at the size of that card.
Yeah,
you know, that's a big card.
Mm-hmm.
You could fit a lot of stuff on there.
One child, male, Wesley Crusher. Shut up, Wesley.
That's right. But I have a few photos of card backs that I have pulled up here, just for Bobby. We have the Shadow.
I would love a Shadow line to return. Like
Right.
I want like that custom Mezco Shadow that you made, Bobby. If Mezco just did an official one,
Right.
right, perfect.
Whose show was I on in the last couple of days where I was talking about public domain and when things are going to yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like, I think the Shadow and Dick Tracy are coming up for public domain soon. So
cool.
Let's see.
Very cool.
Man, I do love some trench coats and Tommy guns, man.
Right?
I've got actually, hang on. I
double shoulder holsters with 1911s.
I brought a couple of things down from the display. If you look at the size of that 1911 in the in the holster there, it's almost bigger than the old Chicago typewriter that Tommy gun in his hand.
Nice.
But man, these were fantastic, and the vehicles, dude. The bad guy car.
Bad guy car is great.
It's so versatile. If you're watching The Shadow, the opening scene of The Shadow, when they're going through those what are those fields? Is it the opium fields or whatever? Anyway, it's almost the exact same car, like to a T, and you can fit your Shadow figures inside of that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I've used it for big photography with Captain Carter. And just photoshopped a Hydra symbol on the side of that thing and made it black and white. It's really cool, super versatile.
I have the cop car from that line. It's great.
Yeah.
All right. So quickly, World Made of Cardboard, since Super Chat, thank you, sir, says, in the 90s, my wife loved Star Trek and bought all the toys. It was the beginning of the internet. Didn't web search for Playmate. Oh, don't web search. Oh, gotcha. That reminds me of, what was it?
Solid advice.
Like 2000 and I think it was like 2003, 2012 when the Triple X movie came out. That's how I got suspended. Gen X Toys Geek sends in another one. Thank you, sir. It says just cuz Mach 2 or Mark 2, depending. So Jeremy, this your time to shine is now. I'm going to give you the next 10 minutes to defend yourself?
Well, I mean, look, I feel like I feel like people are piling on to Dragonheart right now. I feel like it's having that that Nickelback effect. You don't know that you actually don't like it. You've just been told that you're not supposed to, right? And that's the way I feel about Dragonheart. Now, look,
there are two types of people in this world: people who don't like Nickelback and liars.
Right. But hey, look. I can't defend the line's articulation. I just can't. They're pretty much a statue from the waist down. But I mean, if you look at the amount of stuff that was coming in the package with this line, I mean, just like, you know, I said in the chat, I used to hold a lot of action figures, and I would compare them to how cool that Rufio was that came with that glider and everything. And so, like, if you look at the value of the stuff that it's coming with, it's crazy. And then the dragons, well, here's Bowen right here. I mean, dude, look at this thing. Came with a freaking launcher and all that stuff. The dragons were super versatile too, and they're huge. I mean, these things would make their way into D&D sessions, like all kinds of stuff, man.
If only the Willow line was as good as the Dragonheart line.
Dude, right? Well, those were like the only thing I remember from Willow was like these like die cast.
Yeah, they were made by Tonka, and Tonka put die cast and everything.
But yeah, dude, I don't know. It's if you're trying to get me to hold it to certain metrics of quality, I'm gonna shy away from that. I just like it, and I remember it fondly, and I remember the dragons and stuff getting used for all kinds of different things. So there it is.
Agreed. The dragons were phenomenal as kids because other than Draco, because he's the only dragon that appeared in the movie, the other two were whatever you wanted them to be. They fit into whatever toy line you wanted them to fit into.
Yeah.
The figures, I would agree, the articulation on them is terrible because like they were pretty much 3, maybe 2 POA because
it's a 3 POA line. You get the arms and the head will rotate, and that's it.
Really,
Well,
the legs
sounds
don't
pretty
move at
cool
all?
to me.
No, so they are if you look at it, they are molded in that static pose right there.
Interesting.
Squatty pose, if you will.
And the squatty pose, but they all balance really well, and you know, you can put the weapons in the hand and it still doesn't knock them over. So.
And the dragons, were they statues or are they articulated?
Oh no, they articulate better than the figures do.
Oh, way better than the figures. Yeah.
Cool.
So they had like here. I actually have one right here. I have that same Razorback. So like, let me figure this out. Let me pull a wing out. So the wings are removable. That's how they fit in the package. So the wings had, let me do this. You can fucking see it. How about that, Sal? There you go. So they were on a peg, so the wings would rotate. Right. But this one, I believe, is broken. No. So you would move his hind leg and his like spikes would come up, but all the legs moved. The tails would rotate. So the heads would swivel and the jaws would articulate. So the dragons were great.
Jesse asked what scale were those. They look like 3 3/4. I think they might be just a hair shorter than that though.
Yeah, it's possible.
They're pretty small. No, they're Joe size. Yeah, they're 3 3/4.
Yeah.
I just I have
squat. So very squat.
I have the entire line. I've completed the collection.
Yeah, there's not a lot to it.
No, and especially when you can get carded figures for $5, right? Like you're going to spend more on the dragons. I think the Medusa dragon is the one that's the rarest right now, but still, I think that one costs like 30 something. Yep, there you go.
The Medusa dragon. This whole thing pops off, so you could like here come off. So his whole extra head comes off and there's like a slit like a snake. He has his own little arms there and everything. So really cool.
Yeah, I mean just imagine plopping one of those on the table during a D&D session, man. Game changer. Absolute game changer.
I brought my own dragon.
Yeah. Now, for the life of me, dude, we were talking about it in the group chat. I had every intention of opening these. I made the display space for it. I took some stuff down and I was like, these are going up, and I couldn't do it. Like every time I went to separate the bubble from the card back, I was just, you know, like I got drunk intentionally. I was like, look, I'm gonna get drunk and I'm gonna do it. You know, like that was the reason why I became intoxicated, and I still couldn't do it drunk. You know, so
Well, just buy a second set. They're $5.
who did buy a second set? They're $5.
Yeah.
How about you?
That's not the point, Ryan.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably will eventually wind up doing that. I'm gonna be honest with
Stop
you.
being an asshole. All right. Just
What's with the personal attacks, man? Look, we've gone so far into the stream without any personal attacks, right? I thought we were having a good day, Ryan, but
I thought
guess
we were
not.
overdue for one personally.
yeah, it's been it's been 24 hours since we said anything disparaging about one another.
All right. Next up is Waterworld, another Kenner line. It seems like Kenner was like the king of movie tie-ins for the 90s. It's like they lived and died by, I think, honestly, my personal opinion, I think they were really trying to recapture Star Wars, like, because they hit a home run with it and were really lucky. And I think it was like, let's just license every single movie and hope that it happens again.
Mm-hmm.
So now,
I mean, they had a couple of really heavy hitters in the 80s, right? With Star Wars and Superpowers. And the 90s, just a bunch of weird random lines that sat on the shelf forever. Like Waterworld.
There were some 90s highlights like Dragonheart and Dragonheart.
Dragonheart and Dragonheart.
They were a highlight for the discount bins.
Yeah, so if you look at mine, you can see where I scraped the discount, the KB Toy Store discount sticker off of there.
Yep.
But whatever.
the old KB Toy Biz, it was like, it says like 3 for $5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these toy lines, you said that they were, they were great for the, the dollar bin or whatever. They were great for me, as it was like, if I, wanted to get something, it was always something like Waterworld. Like my mom wouldn't say no if it was a cheap ass toy.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, Mom, I want to get something. I want this. I'd be like, no, it's too expensive. Like, I don't know if your parents did it, but they would like point in the aisle, like nothing above here, nothing below here, kind of thing. And the cheap shit like Waterworld and Dragonheart was always cheap, and it was always okay, yeah, you can get that, especially at Big Lots. My grandma, so for those that don't know, I army build in 3s usually, and I think I got that from my grandma or something, because anytime we went to Big Lots, it was always, you can get 3 toys, because they were always like they're never priced above a certain point, so it was always I could get 3, and yeah, that was things like Waterworld, Dragonheart, the shit no one wanted because it was at Big Lots. That's how no one wanted it. That's what I ended up with, and that was always a guaranteed, like, you can get that. So
I imagine none of these are unique sculpts from Waterworld.
probably not.
Are you implying that Kenner would kit bash a figure together?
How dare you?
I'm just curious. I know little bit
You
nothing
mean like
about
my,
the
you mean like
Waterworld
my
toy
Green
line.
Arrow? My Green Arrow? I mean Robin Hood right here?
Hey,
That's a great figure.
Dude. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, with the soft
I-
heads. Love it.
Michael French and I have toyed with the idea of doing a show just about Kenner reuse through multiple lines because it's absurd.
I mean, you could go for 30 minutes at least just on Robin Hood.
Yeah. Yep.
From superpowers to
They
Swamp
used
Thing.
Star Wars Return of the Jedi.
Superpowers and Star Wars. It's like they went deep in their library. And then like weird stuff like the Terminator 2 line, they decided to use a gun for the T-1000 that's from the RoboCop line from like 6 years prior. You're like, wow, that went deep.
The sheriff of Nottingham's head is
the RoboCop bad
guy.
Yeah. It's wild.
And then like Will Scarlet from the line, if you take the cloth goods off of Will Scarlet, it's just Robin. It's Robin with
it's Robin and Dassad's legs.
Yeah. But yeah, these are dude, the vehicles, dude, check this out. Look at this, dude. I mean, fantastic.
Drew G at Joe Fest, Drew G gave me 2 of the, I think he gave me the net launcher and the Bola one, and they're so gorgeous. The packaging on them is Thing of beauty.
Yep. It's a fantastic line. Actually, when my brother and I got older, we started using these for customs. And unfortunately, we destroyed the figures, but whatever. But I think like Little John wind up turning into. Remember that video game Final Fight? Right? It was a beat 'em up, side scroller beat 'em up. Who was the big guy? I think his name was Hagar, right? Little John turned into Hagar from that, doing customs. Yeah.
The interesting thing is I had the Sherwood Forest playset. Now, before I even knew that it was a repurpose of the Ewok village, I would use it as the Ewok village. And then later found out, I was like, oh, that's why it fit perfectly. Okay.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, it's a repurposed and upgraded version.
It is. Having the foliage is so much better.
Yep.
That's a dream piece, right? I don't know what they're going for. I don't want to hurt my own feelings and look up what a complete one is going for, but I would love to have it.
It's not that bad.
And the battle tank too.
Yep. The battle wagon.
Yeah, battle wagon. Yeah.
I've been shopping for a Sherwood Forest and a Swamp Thing playset recently.
The Dagobah playset?
It's not the Dagobah. It's totally different.
Okay.
Sure. It's totally different. They may have taken some design cues from it, but it's totally different.
They definitely didn't use the same exact mold.
Well, that Swamp Thing was a very interesting Kenner line as well. And I didn't have a lot of them, but the ones that I did have were fantastic. I love the gimmicks on them.
Yeah,
right? I love that there was one where Swamp Thing's hand would come out. It was attached to a retracting string.
The snare arm Swamp Thing, yes, sir.
I had the one that would change in different temperature water, change colors, and then I had the glow in the dark one. But I never had any bad guys from that line.
I had the guy in the orange suit with the big blue bug head you put on him. He was cool.
They are, yeah.
There was the weird one where
there he is. Yeah.
There was the weird one where you pressed the button and Swamp Thing kind of fell apart.
Yes, I had that one.
Suck my ass.
So weird.
I hated that one. I got that. The one that crumples apart. Good luck playing with it.
So my brother and I were talking on the phone just about 2 nights ago when we were talking about the Dick Tracy line and how different it would be had Playmates. I'm sorry, had Kenner done that line instead of Playmates, right? And we started talking about like what gimmicks they could have done, for the Dick Tracy line. And we were talking about the kid, right? Dick Tracy Jr. I think they called him the kid. We were talking about maybe having like that real Ghostbusters fright feature, where they get scared and the mouth would drop down. Like you come with like a chicken leg, you could just like throw in his mouth. You know what I mean? The kid was like eating all the time, just like a baseball launcher and stuff.
Probably would have had a lot of reuse of that Clark Kent body from Superpowers.
Sure.
We've already covered this. See, Kenner doesn't do that kind of stuff, man.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We've been down this road already, Ryan. Come on, get.
Yeah.
Let's
go. Also,
you're
a good person.
Wow.
I'm a good person?
Wow.
I mean, if we're telling lies.
Oh, as long as we're lying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, there you go.
There he is.
Very cool.
So these things, I had a bunch of Swamp Thing as a kid. I'd never seen the show or the cartoon or the movie or whatever the case may have been. I had the glow in the dark one, that dude in the orange, but my favorite Swamp Thing was he was like brown and had like a green top, but it would turn white if it got cold. Color changing, I believe it was.
Dude, 90s gimmicks were so cool, man.
So cool.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that the Swamp Thing line was like that the snare arm Swamp Thing was a Swamp Thing they were going to use for the Superpowers line.
I believe it.
I can see that.
So I'm kind of distracted here, flipping through my little Kenner catalog. Just in passing, wanted to mention the best Transformers line that they ever did. Beast Wars. So
it's the Beast Wars, yeah.
Yeah. Just saying, best
what was
Transformers of all time.
Did we just go German?
Austrian.
Put another shrimp on the Barbie then.
I went Austrian for what's his name? Zazil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But Kenner Dark Knight was a great line.
Oh, so good.
Heck yeah.
So looking at this man bat here, 15-inch wingspan.
Oh, see that I couldn't fuck around with that one. Like that's when it got crazy. Like that's when they started making like a horror line, and I was a purist, man.
Yeah, they started like bringing in different versions of Batman from different eras.
So Robin was
I remember the one that was in a suit of armor. He was like Sir Bruce of Wayne or something.
Yeah.
And like he was actually in like medieval armor, but it had like bat points, like bat ears on the helmet.
And they had less articulation than the previous Dark Knight collection line from the early 90s and the Batman Returns line.
They're pretty statuesque, weren't they?
Yeah. They were like pre-posed into like action poses that weren't really good. They're kind of whatever, but I take the 5p away from the early 90s Batman any day.
Yep.
Over that.
Listen, man, I'm gonna go to my grave saying Deep Dive Batman was the greatest Batman ever made.
He was the yellow
one, right? Scuba diver.
Oh,
yeah, the highlighter yellow.
Yep.
I really liked Arctic Attack. He had like a black and white, almost like a tiger print or tiger pattern, like black and white camo.
Yep. I was a big fan of the laser one too, that had the silver waffle costume.
That was cool. I gotta say, my favorite was the one that started it all, that Power Glider Batman. I think it was Power Glider, the gold.
Yep.
I saw the commercial for this new Batman line on TV before I ever saw a toy in the store, and they showed that gold Batman on the Power Glider, and they showed the Bat Cycle, which I think was reused from RoboCop.
Yeah.
Mind blown. I was like begging my mom, "Can we go to Toys R Us? Can we go to Toys R Us?" Love that, dude. That gold Batman.
If there's a
Wish
line
I still had
to
it.
collect, it's that line, but they're pricey, man.
Yeah.
They are pricey. They made a perfect Batmobile in that line.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a friend traded it to me for a G.I. Joe vehicle. And I wish I still had it because that Batmobile goes for over $200, like loose and complete.
The only thing that Batmobile got wrong, like Toy Biz had the two-seater,
yeah.
but it was an open cockpit, closed canopy.
Yeah.
Kenner, when they did it, closed canopy, one-seater.
Yep. But it had the machine guns. It had the 30 cals instead of the stupid rocket firing. It had the blast effect that came out the back. Mm-hmm. Man, that Batmobile was perfect.
I didn't have that. It was a highly coveted item, but we could just never find it. And so what I used was I think it was Revel made a snap together model kit.
They did
of the Batmobile, and so I was able to get one of those and built that, and so that was my sub in was the model. You gotta do what you gotta do, man.
The Bat Missile, another one. I got the Bat Missile for Christmas one year, single cockpit, but that's another one, big money. And it's like, wow, like I was able to get this stuff for Christmas. How was it like, so how is it so expensive now? It's just odd.
They had a lot of great vehicles in that line. They reused Superpowers Batcopter.
Batcopter, yep.
They used a Silverhawks jet of some sort, the fold-out wings on the back. They reused that in the Batman line. The Bat Cycle.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Woo!
Here we go.
What was that? What was that Superman one called? Like the Super Stomper or something? It was like a Superman trouble bubble or some kind of nonsense.
The Justice Jogger.
The Justice Jogger.
And for you, Bobby.
Oh,
there it is.
Look how awesome he looks.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Man, you put that snap-on breather to him. He looks so cool.
Who doesn't want to fight crime at night in highlighter yellow? I mean, that's the go-to color.
But I mean, just look at the amount of stuff that you get with that.
Yeah,
like look at that. And then you can't none of that's going to be reused for another figure,
right? One figure. That's all they did.
Those clip-on wrist gauntlets those came with that? They came with something else. I know
those aren't the same one on the Bruce Wayne.
Those went on his boots, Ryan.
Okay.
You talking about the Bruce Wayne that has the bat suit that.
Well, he had the whole boot that went over his foot, though.
Yeah. No, I don't think anything from this line was reused because they used that power sled that you were talking about, Ryan. They reused that for the Batman Returns line, but I don't think this one ever made another appearance.
Yeah, maybe not, but I know those boot clip-on things did.
Okay.
Because I never had this highlighter yellow one, but I had those clip-on things.
I'm pretty sure Bobby's right. Hey, Ryan, next time you think about saying something dumb, just don't. That'd really help us out.
Well, then I'll never say anything. So what are you talking about?
I'm just gonna sit back and watch this happen.
Yeah, who invited the Dragonheart of live streamers onto this panel? That's what I wanna know.
The
That's
Nickelback
horrible.
of toy collectors here.
Whoa! Oh,
I like retro blasting. He says, "Oh yes, the Batman of Willy Wonka."
how dare you, Michael? How dare you?
Listen, Batman. There was a Batman for everything when I was a kid. So I think still my favorite is old.
Yeah, there you go,
Animated
man.
series.
Dude, you talk about a Batmobile that had some value to it. What was that animated series one? Like,
So-
you got the Batmobile and you got an aerial vehicle as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
You ready for a story time?
Dude, fantastic.
So
It's-
I had that Batmobile,
Mhm.
right? And then you had on the tires you could pull out the little spikes and all that. So cool, so cool. I got it for Christmas, and it was a few years after the animated series. So my mom or my grandma must have found it on clearance somewhere. But I got that Batmobile, and I was probably old enough to know better. Well, I shouldn't say no better. It was a freak accident, but explain that to my dad because he didn't get it. We had a little kiddie pool out in the backyard because we're white trash. The little one that comes all folded up in a box. You have to like unfurl it and fill it up with a garden hose. So it's all cold. And then after a day, it smells like sitting water and all the bugs have infested it. Or your dad mows the grass and there's just grass clippings floating all in it.
That layer of film on the top, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, I'm out there playing, getting sunburned as you do. And in my brain, I'm like, oh, Batman's in this high-speed chase or whatever. There was like this kind of, shouldn't call it a picnic table. It was like a wooden table that was outside because, again, we're white trash. Not even like a normal like lawn table. It was like clearly what should have been a kitchen table at some point. It was just out in the backyard because reasons. And so I'm in the pool driving it on this table, and I'm like, "Oh no, we're going off the road!" And so, in my idea is like, "Oh, we've run Batman off the road. The Batmobile is going to come off the table, and I'm going to pull the Batwing thing out of the back of it, and he's going to fly away to safety while the Batmobile, sinks." I do that. I drop the Batmobile. It lands, thins down, and pokes holes in the bottom of the pool. Yeah, so that's how I got grounded. And how we didn't have a kiddie pool for the rest of the summer.
Man.
Boy, you really pulled a Jernigan on that one, didn't
You
you? Sal?
really Jernigan that one, didn't you?
Wow.
Jeremy, is there something I don't know? Like, why is there so much hatred for you, man? Listen, Tony came to the office and put you on the blacklist in my shipping office. Said, "Yeah, you can't ship to this guy anymore."
Is that why I haven't got my desert rat yet?
I'm like, what happened? Did I miss something? Did I not get the memo? Did I not?
It's his
check?
face.
It's like, did I not
is.
check his tank? Like, what happened?
Yeah, it is my face. It's a very disagreeable thing to look at. I mean,
There's
you look at
something
this
about your
look at-
face.
Look at that Jew honker right there. You see that?
Wow.
I don't think we could say that on YouTube.
I can.
Okay, fine. Whatever.
Yeah. Look, I will stereotype myself as much as I have to. Massive nose, black hair. You know what I mean? But yeah, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the long history of animosity between Ryan Laserpants and myself. I don't know where it started, but
Blister pack.
yeah, it start with the blister pack. That was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good natured though. There's an element to kayfabe happening here.
Okay.
Not
But
at all.
Ryan, you should see the stuff he DMs me. It's very sweet.
Nudes.
Nudes mostly.
Please respond.
I thought everybody that had a wrench on 3POA had to send nudes to Ryan in order to get it. Come
That's
to
how you
find
get
out,
it.
I'm the only one.
But now you've revealed the secret, so
I'm
right.
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Yeah. So anyway, back to this Batman the Animated Series Batmobile. Sorry, we got off track. If I remember correctly, the wings were spring loaded, right? So when you
Right.
pull that,
you'd
thing
fold
out
it up
there-
and it would slide in the cockpit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Such a
cool toy. Yeah, awesome value in that.
Hmm.
It's that excuse me. I had that combat belt Batman, which is like the definitive animated series Batman. remember like getting it at Kmart and there was like a bunch of them, and now it's like $100 figure. And I'm like, how did that happen? He's
it's
like
the only Batman that looks like the cartoon. Everything else is wild, wacky colors.
I guess so, but you would think that they would have made a ton of them. So it's like vintage Star Wars. When I see like Farm Boy Luke, you know, double the price of like Vader, Obi-Wan, I'm like, they probably made a shit ton of Luke. So, you know, where's the justification there?
Yeah.
Man, I'm getting it from Michael too now.
I love Michael.
A good guy, great guy. Even
how did I become the whipping boy of the collector community, man? This is
Hey, you know what? It's nice to not be me for a change. So now we spent the majority of the stream talking about what we love from these various toy lines and all that. But at the end of the day, these companies aren't around anymore. You know, Playmates is still around, again, kind of making turtles, kind of not. I think they're doing King Kong whenever that shows up. But other than that, Toy Biz is gone, and Kenner exists only in name for brand marketing for Hasbro.
Right. Yeah, like the real Ghostbuster stuff. And
right. Whenever they do a retro line or anything like that. So my question is, and this is, I guess, geared at Bobby, because, you know, you kind of know a thing or two about the toy industry, I guess.
Hey, Michael. Right back at you.
What happened? Like, how can these juggernauts of the toy industry just die out pretty much overnight?
Well, I just want to touch on Playmates for a second, because I think we get into a vacuum sometimes, and we think just because a company's not doing collector lines or like a line we would collect, that means they're not around anymore. Playmates does a ridiculous amount of kids' toys, like girls' toys, go in the preschool aisle, that sort of thing. So like
10.
Yeah, they make a ton of product. So they are very much a big toy company that's still around. It's just, they're not doing a property you like. So I don't think it's really fair to lump in Playmates with that just yet, just because they're still a very profitable big toy company. As far as Kenner goes, you know, that the 90s was a rough time. I think everyone was grabbing for licenses and trying to do whatever. And I think they spread themselves a little too thin. You know, they did a lot of movie properties that failed. Hasbro also was doing a lot of properties that failed. They almost got bought out by Mattel in the mid 90s. So, you know, and that's what started, like, you know, everyone gobbling up toy companies at that point. And because it was like a race. It was like, all right, well, this company just got that company. All right, well, this company just got that company. Well, we have to go get the next one now. And everyone just kept gobbling and gobbling. And eventually someone was going to, you know, run out of money, or there was going to run out of companies. And it was almost Hasbro when Mattel got them. But luckily they didn't. And Hasbro bounced back, and then Mattel kind of fell. But now it's, you know, it kind of goes up and down and up and down. And it's like, you know, Mattel is very profitable now. They're doing great product. Their stock has risen incredibly. I was smart, and I took my residuals from, from my Hasbro stock that they pay me yearly, and I bought Mattel stock when Mattel was like nothing. And now Mattel is back up, and I'm like, thanks, Hasbro. Smart move. But it's, you know, you watch that kind of stuff, and, you know, I feel like Mattel stock should be much higher based on their profitability, but I think it'll climb. But you know, I think it's just spreading excuse me, guys, spreading yourselves too thin. Toy Biz was like I said earlier in the show, the entertainment thing. You know, Ike and Aviarad, they had Toy Biz, and then they were like, all right, well, we're just gonna take over Marvel, and then they made it Marvel Entertainment, and they're like, yeah, why do we want to produce our own toys? Let's have someone else do it. And that's kind of how that happened. Toy Biz just went away. I'm sure a lot of it had to do with financials with the Lord of the Rings line, and they were probably just like, yeah, why are we doing so many? Just focus on Marvel. Marvel sells, just do that. We don't need to be a toy company. Let's just be an entertainment company. And then, you know, Kenner's always the one that confused me, because it's like, if you're a brand that has Star Wars, like, how do you end up like going away? And, you know, I would love to kind of talk to guys like a Kirk Bazigian, who was, you know, there at the time, to say like, well, you know, what was Hasbro putting out or Tonka acquired Kenner and then Hasbro acquired Tonka right away. So I want to know like what those companies were putting out, what they were reporting for profits at the time, to see like how big of a difference there was between the size of the companies, because we don't really know that. And it's like the toys that made us is cool. I would love for them to kind of do like an offshoot of something like this and be able to talk to all these people and find out why these companies fell and what sort of happened there, because it is really interesting. I mean, nowadays it's like you don't really see a lot of buyouts of companies because there's not a lot of companies left, but also the companies that are left are kind of doing their thing. The last company that really got bought out was Jazzwares acquired Wicked Cool, which was interesting because I had worked for Jazzwares and then I left, and then I'd interviewed with Wicked Cool, and I was, they offered me the job, and they were just about to send me the contract, and then that weekend at Toy Fair, Jazzwares purchased Wicked Cool toys, and then they're like, yeah, we put a hiring freeze on it. I'm like, oh man, I wanted to work for that company. That was a cool company. But then Jazzwares now has become like $1 billion company like overnight. Like Jazzwares went from being something really small and became this juggernaut.
They're moving fast.
They're moving fast. But also, I think a lot of that has to do with kind of two things. They gamble on properties where a Hasbro will only put, like effort into something if it's like a $50 million brand. Jazzwares is like $5 million all day, baby. We'll take 10 $5 million brands and turn them into bigger brands. Look what they did with Peppa Pig and Roblox, Fortnite. I think Hasbro passed on Fortnite and went with that other video game line that failed. But Jazzwares was like, watch this, watch what we'll do. And then they acquired Wicked Cool. And I think the biggest piece of acquiring Wicked Cool was bringing in Jeremy Padower. Jeremy Padower's knowledge of the toy industry and just knowledge of business and where trends and speculation are going. Like I follow his stock advice all the time, and things, if he says to buy something, I buy it. He now runs Jazzwares. He's a chief brand officer, which kind of basically runs it. I think them bringing him in and keeping him in that role made that company as big as it is now. So good on them.
I'm extremely impressed with what Jeremy's doing with the AEW line.
Yep.
And the speed at which they're getting those series out. And dude, they made an Orange Cassidy that can put its hands in his pockets.
Right?
Yeah, that's.
I mean, come on, like that is one of the coolest gimmicks, in a toy, but modern day anyway.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cool gimmick to do. But all their stuff has been bangers, man.
Yeah.
There's only a couple of figures in the line. I wish they wouldn't do the Young Bucks as often as they do. I'm not a huge Young Bucks mark, but AEW, they're doing the Halo stuff, and that's all been cool too. I've gotten all the vehicles from that almost. They're knocking it out of the park right now.
The interesting thing is, when I was at Jazzwares, a friend of mine that worked with me there, we were talking and we were like, man, Jazzwares should look at getting the AEW license. And he, I was like, we should pitch it like at a meeting and pitch it that they should go after it. And then I left, and then he left, and then I go to, Wicked Cool. And I said to the woman who was going to hire me, my interview, she was, running design. I'm like, listen, you guys should look at acquiring the AEW license. I said, I think that's going to be really big. And she just kind of like chuckled. And then I was like, did you guys already get it? And she was like, yeah, we just got it like 2 days ago. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So, and then it gets folded under Jazzwares. So it ends up at Jazzwares anyway, which is funny.
Did their UFC line end?
Yes.
Oh, that's too bad.
I mean,
I like that first wave. I just wish they were a little bigger.
Yeah, the factory screwed that up. They didn't follow my directions on it. But I still loved it because I got, some of my favorite fighters in that line. And then it's like they fixed it. But I think at the end of the day, you got to look at fans and what overlaps. Like the reason you don't see a lot of video game lines is because I think the video game fan isn't necessarily the toy fan, and the toy fan isn't necessarily the video game fan. So I don't think you're gonna get the overlap you would want from the video game fan base. You know, like if all toy fans play video games, okay, but what about the other 100 million people that play video games that aren't toy fans? You're not going to get them just because they're making a line. I don't think it's apples to, you know, it's apples to oranges. It's all fruit, but different fruit. So with UFC, it's like the wrestling fan is like our kind of demographic. The UFC fan is a little different. The UFC fan is like uber alpha kind of macho guys, and you know, more sports orientated guys. You know, so the overlap isn't there. I don't think those guys are seeing UFC come out and buying it. Also, it's like wrestling is wrestling. Like you can let your kids watch wrestling because it's scripted, so you feel like it's a little more controlled. Whereas you're not gonna let your kids watch UFC. One, it comes on really late, and two, it's like Max Holloway had a cut open so wide last night, his eyebrow was falling off, and you could see his skull. So it's like, you know, it's different. I don't think you're gonna get that there.
I mean, I have to mention Seth Rollins poked out Rey Mysterio's eye, you know, live on television. So you can't, you know.
That's true. That's true. Stuff does happen.
Did that actually happen?
No, it didn't. It was
for
a while. Rey Mysterio had one eye hole in his
patch on it,
luchador
yeah.
mask.
Yeah.
Like it was all like kayfabe work, man.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I wish, like, because it's like I feel like I'm in this weird like gray area. I'm a huge lover of toys and geek stuff, but then it's like I play a lot of sports, I watch a lot of sports, I love UFC, I shoot a lot of guns. So I wish like we would get more of that overlap, so because then you can get more of those kind of brands, like a UFC brand would then, you know, flourish in that way. But you know, Jax did it back in the day, and I think it worked a little bit. But then you know, it went away, and I just think UFC is just not a toy property. Some things just aren't toy properties, and unfortunately, that's one of them. At least I got my plush Conor McGregor that talks out of it.
That's right.
That thing is pretty cool.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I got to agree with you about the individuals that are, you know, watching UFC and doing the rest of that stuff. You've got, you know, way more of an opportunity to sell them shaker bottles and stuff than you do,
Yeah.
you know, action figures, you know.
Yeah.
I personally have 17 Affliction t-shirts.
Yeah. Are they like bedazzled too?
Yeah, like the Ed Hardy ones.
Yeah, and the tap out ones and
Ed
stuff.
Hardy jeans.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any Affliction tees, but I know those Affliction bros, you know,
Yep.
they carry their shaker bottle around with them everywhere. That way,
Yep.
you know.
Or the gallon of water. Just walk around with a gallon of water.
Yeah. They want you to know that they're hydrating because they're going to
Yep.
train later.
Yeah.
Affliction bros are great.
Oh, they're awesome.
All right. Well, I think that pretty well ties a nice bow on things for us here on the panel. So I'd like to take the remaining, 6 minutes to go round robin and tell everyone again, where they can find you and what you got coming up. Ryan, why don't you go ahead and start us?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram right there on the screen, LaserPants81, or 3POA_podcast on Instagram as well. Also, the YouTube channel, 3POA Podcast.
Outstanding. Jeremy, where can people avoid you?
You can totally dodge me on Instagram at Authority Figure Studios, and on Facebook at Authority Figure, first name Authority, last name Figure. I've actually got. I know we're doing the TMNT panel tonight, but I have another stream that's coming up at 4 Eastern. I'll be live with Jason Bienvenu, and we're talking Animal Wars of the Kingdom. What's coming up for the tabletop strategy game, and what's coming up for the line in general. So, but that's not part of IconiCon though. But
yeah, cheap plug.
No, it definitely is not part of IconiCon. Yeah. No, that was cute though. Thanks.
Nice. And Bobby.
You could find me everywhere by just searching Valverse, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, valverse.com for all of your Action Force needs.
Outstanding. And we do have the TMNT movie panel later.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
So I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm going to attempt to not fall asleep and rewatch TMNT again because I watched.
How could you? It's an emotional roller coaster. How could you?
That's right. I got to go, especially see the part where April and I think it's Donatello are in the doorway and Donatello screams. You can see the actor's eyes in the mouth. I love that part.
Yeah.
It's the scene where Wrath wakes up. Yeah.
It's great. It's wonderful. Not nightmare fuel at all. So
He wants some food.
Leo, don't.
But I thank everyone for coming by, especially this early in the morning on a Sunday. Thank you all so much for spending your time with me here on the panel and carrying it for me. It was great. And thank you for all your insights and all your wisdom and inputs and all that kind of stuff. For everyone in the chat, thank you for coming by. I think G.I. Joeberg is the next up for IconiCon. So be sure to head over there to watch their video. I believe, no, the Mauler was the other day. I think this is the Renegades, the full story of the Renegades. So that'll be interesting to see. And other than that, thanks for coming by. We will see you all next time.